Buenos días. Buenos días. Good morning. Good morning. My name is Marla Bolanek, and I'm the Executive Director of the Latino Economic Development Center, a nonprofit CDFI providing asset building services to Latinos and other underserved communities out of our 6 locations in the greater Washington, D.C. and Baltimore City areas. I'm also a proud member of the Board of Directors of NALCAB. Yes, shout out, shout out. When I was asked to introduce our keynote speaker, I did not hesitate to respond with a resounding yes. I was on vacation in the UK, and while living in denial of most of my work emails, this is one that I did not wait even one moment to respond to. Por supuesto, I was up for the challenge. After all, I'm one of her biggest fangirls, but I'll keep it cool given this venue. Ana Navarro needs no introduction, but I appreciate you all indulging me as I highlight some of her extraordinary accomplishments. Like me, and like many of you, she was born in Central America. She came to the US, yeah, shout out to Central America, right? Panama, anyone from Panama in the house? Thank you. She came to the US as a child, fleeing political turmoil in her native Nicaragua to settle in Miami. She went on to obtain her BA in Latin American Studies and Political Science from the University of Miami, and then her JD from St. Thomas University Law School. From there, she built an impressive career as a Republican strategist, most notably serving on the transition team for Florida Governor Jeb Bush in 1998, and as the national co-chair of the Hispanic Advisory Council for John McCain in 2008, and John Huntsman Jr. in 2012. During the 2016 presidential campaign, she amazed CNN viewers by breaking with her party and criticizing then-candidate Donald Trump for offenses including his brash Access Hollywood rant. While a lifelong Republican, she is vehemently anti-Trump and has developed a strong following as a commentator on CNN and via Twitter for her candid, no-holds-barred analysis of politics in a post-Trump reality. She has been outspoken on issues that affect our communities, including aid to Puerto Rico, DACA, immigration reform, and racism. Last year, she was named by the Washington Post, The Lily, as one of the 10 Latinas who dominated 2017, along with notable women including San Juan's Mayor Carmen Yulín Cruz, agricultural worker and activist Isabel Pascual, my paisana Erika Ender, who co-wrote a little song you may have heard called Despacito, the first Latina senator, Catherine Cortez Masto, and the nation's hottest rapper, Cardi B. There is no doubt that she is a force to be reckoned with and a leader of a new generation of Latinas that are making an indelible mark on our nation. NALCAB is absolutely honored to have Ana Navarro as our keynote speaker this year. Since her own words speak volumes, I'll end by quoting one of her tweets from last month in reference to Chef Jose Andres' appearance on the Oscars stage. Because, folks, in life, you've got to stand up for something. And stand up she has. Please join me in welcoming the incomparable Ana Navarro to the stage. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Man, I'm so glad I matched the furniture today. You know, you talk about Jose Andres. God, I love that guy. And, you know, he shows you, first, I mean, he cooks like, you know, for the gods, but also he shows you just how much one person can do, just the difference for good that one human being, when moved to action, is capable of doing. Because you often ask yourselves, and okay, you know, we're not all famous chefs, but you often ask yourselves, what can I do? And Jose Andres has done so much in the most difficult of circumstances, including suing the President of the United States. Hay que ir a comer donde Jose Andres. So I'm going to speak a little bit this morning. Really, you know, I feel like we're entre familia. I'm going to speak a little bit, and then I'm going to sit down and take any question. You guys can ask me anything you want. We're going to have a little bit of moderated speech, question and answer, and then we're going to open it up. Think about what you want to ask me. Anything other than my weight, for which I also blame Donald Trump. I mean, really, I was so petite before he got elected. Anyways, listen, good morning, and thank you. Thank you to NALCAB for inviting me here and for not giving up on Florida. I'm really glad we greeted you with perfect weather this time instead of a hurricane. And, you know, since I'm here to talk about the Trump administration, the political landscape in America, I think it's really appropriate that we are so close to roller coasters in fantasy land. This room is looking good today. Full of anchor babies and bad hombres. All right, folks, look. Hay que reírse. I mean, really, there's so, you know, people ask me why I find humor in this, because if you don't find humor in this absurdity, I really don't know how you cope. I mean, you know, other than carbs. So, let's get to the point. You know, we need to talk a little bit about everything that's been happening around us, that's been happening to us, that's been happening to our community. And if you are a Trump supporter, ay, no sé qué decirte. If you are a, you know, Trump supporter, this might be a good time for a cigarette break. Or, you know, I was born missing the nuance gene. No way of sugarcoating what to me is the obvious. No estamos para ceremonia. Are there any Cuban Americans in the room? Okay. Well, you know, I love Cubans a lot. All the good things I know in life, I got taught by the Sacred Heart nuns. All the bad things I know in life, I got taught by a Cuban man. But if you're one of the, you know, Cubans who supported Trump because he pretended to be for the embargo after he tried to open up a golf course in Cuba during the embargo, I promise you, I'll make it up to you. And you can insult me at the question and answer. And I will bash Castro. I mean, really, I would never in my life compare Trump to a dictatorial strongman who tramples on democratic values, puts his family in power, uses power to enrich himself, tries to stifle the free press, gets elected through compromised elections, and is a tool of the Kremlin. No, I would never, ever do that. So, I was in Chicago giving a speech a few weeks ago, and I was talking about Trump, and they had this sign translator with me on the stage, and I am not making this up. You guys are going to think I'm making this up. Do you know what the sign for Trump is? I got my own sign for him, but that one's the one that we keep clean. Anyways, back to the serious stuff. My iPad is cracked. I cracked the hell out of it about 2 days ago, so it doesn't read very well. It's hard to read. So for some reason, when it says President Trump, I read President Loco. I don't know why that happens. But listen, it's obvious. Trump came into power, Trump campaigned, and is governing through a divide and conquer strategy. He pits one group of people against the other. It worked for him during the campaign, and he has shown no desire to change course as president. I think many of us, many people, thought, wanted, prayed, hoped that he would change as president, that when he walked into that Oval Office, the gravity, the enormity of the office, the solemnity of the desk, of the Oval Office, of the ceremony, of the White House, and of the job and everything it entails would have an impact on him and would change him. I don't know about you ladies, but I got a lot of experience with men. It is very hard to change a man after he's done teething. And, you know, not Ivanka, not Melania, not the presidency, nothing is going to change Donald Trump. He is who he is, and he showed us the first time. He's not going to change. I have some friends who voted for Trump. Actually, some of them are former friends now. Not because of me. I don't make my friends pass political litmus tests, except for the Cuban that I love. I told him that if he voted for Trump, he was sleeping on the couch and the couch was going in the backyard. But I think it's important that you don't make friends and people pass political tests. I think it's rather stupid to require political agreement as a basis for friendship or any relationship. This political cycle has brought out something in people, and it goes both ways, left and right, where civil political disagreement and debate, respecting diversity of thought, seems impossible. And let me say this clearly. The people who voted for Trump, including Hispanics, including Latinos who voted for him because they wanted a conservative Supreme Court, because they didn't want a career politician, because their loyalty to their party, because they didn't like the alternative, because they felt taken for granted, because they wanted to control our borders, because they thought voting for an orange guy was really one step closer to getting a brown person elected. The people who voted for him, at least not all of them, are deplorable. We must respect each other's rights to make our own choice and exercise the right to vote as we deem best. And I urge you, and I think this is so important, because, too often I think we fall into the trap of, Latino in name only, he's not Latino enough, and questioning our credentials because of our political leanings. We can't do that. I urge you not to question people's motives or patriotism or take away their Hispanic card because of who they voted or who they support, except Ted Cruz. Anybody from Texas here? Okay, then you guys know what I'm talking about. You guys know Ted Cruz is half Latino, right? Half Hispanic. Obviously, the half that does not include his heart. I mean, his father, you see, this part I don't get. I mean, I don't question you and all that, but here's what I don't get. If your father came here as an immigrant, got to live the American dream, to the point that his son is now in the Senate, was able to take advantage of all the opportunities and everything this country affords, how in the hell could you not do anything to help dreamers who want the same shot, who want the same shot to contribute to this country? Ted Cruz has done nothing. In fact, he's obstructed. No ha hecho un carajo to help the dreamers. Did you, and did you guys hear, you guys in Texas know this, did you guys hear Ted Cruz came out with this campaign song against his Democrat opponent? There's a guy named Beto, right, who's like this. And so this guy named Beto was named Robert. And so Ted Cruz, Rafael Ted Cruz, came out with a campaign song criticizing Robert Beto O'Rourke for having changed his name to fit in Rafael. That'd be, I don't know, that's so ridiculous to me. That'd be like, oh, I don't know, Trump criticizing Bill Clinton for his stormy personal life. Do you guys remember? Man, I'm so old. I remember when Latinos used to have a reputation for being mujeriegos. You guys remember that? Turns out all these white guys are worse. It's just they get away with it. Anyways, look, I have no qualms about saying Donald Trump is deplorable, because to me, calling Mexicans rapists and criminals is deplorable. Calling POWs losers is deplorable. Questioning a US-born judge's ability and impartiality because his parents were Mexican immigrants is deplorable. Kicking Hispanic anchors out of press conferences is deplorable. Making fun of a disabled person is deplorable. Boasting about sexual assault is deplorable. Not using your presidential bully pulpit to denounce acts of hate and bigotry is deplorable. Equating neo-Nazis with those who protest against them is deplorable. Endorsing a pedophile candidate for US Senate is deplorable. Not denouncing a domestic abuser working in your White House, in your Oval Office, is deplorable. Conducting ICE raids in churches is deplorable. Ending DACA and then not doing a damn thing to fix the problem for over 6 months now, keeping hundreds of thousands of young people, American in every way but one, living in fear, is deplorable. Tearing good, decent parents away from small children is deplorable. Mocking little Marco Rubio, I don't know how that one got in there. Bad Anna. And this deplorable president has our community, among many others, under attack. Most of us here in this room, we're going to be fine. We've got a voice, we've got jobs, we've got status, we're going to be okay. But even if we have all our needs taken care of, even if we're going to be okay, even if we're not in fear, if our community is a target, every single one of us is a target. If core American values of unity and equality and fairness and basic decency are under attack, we are all under attack. When Trump demonizes immigrants, he is attacking all of us, everybody that looks like us and that sounds like us. And it's funny, I'm from Miami, right? I've grown up in Miami my entire life. And I get on TV and, Twitter and all this stuff, and the people who would like me would text me, would tweet me about my sexy Latina accent. And the people who hated me would text me, Mexican, go home. And I came home one day and I said, honey, do I have an accent? I mean, I'm from Miami, everybody talks like this. I had no idea people thought I had an accent. He laughed. We have two choices right now. We can either ignore what's going on all around us, because we're okay, ignore the human suffering, ignore the fear, the distress, and despair of our community and other communities, or we can choose to build a protective cocoon and maybe somebody will wake us up when this is over, or we can fight back. Mi gente, lo siento mucho. Ignorant bliss, sitting on the sidelines, it's not an option. We must fight back. We must fight back hard, and we must fight back together. Every dreamer who lives in fear of being kicked out of the country they love, the only life they know, they need us to fight back. The mother or the father who cannot sleep at night for fear they will be deported at any moment and have their children left behind, God knows to what fate, they need us to fight back. And let me tell you this, I've been thinking so much about this in the last several weeks because of everything that's come out. I refuse to be lectured to about family values by people who support tearing immigrant families apart and at the same time defend a president who we learned was having an affair with a porn actress and a Playboy bunny at the same time while being married. The family values. Only silver lining I see to the Trump election is that something that had been asleep in America has awoken. And for many of us that come from countries, that we fled countries where there's political repression, where there's dictatorships, we know not to take this for granted. But I think that in America, we had become too accustomed, it had become too easy, and we started to take some of the rights and responsibilities that come with democracy for granted. That American spirit to defend our values, to defend the things that unite us, to defend the things that this country stands for, that has been awoken. And it's alive in each of us today. We saw it in the millions of women who marched in Washington and across the country the day after his swearing in. We see it in the thousands of people who showed up at the airports to protest a Muslim ban. We saw it in the teachers in West Virginia who took to the streets to demand better pay. We see it in the women and saying enough is enough through the Me Too movement. We see it in the students of Stoneman Douglas and all across the country who fearlessly speak truth to power and demand to be able to go to school without fear of their lives. We must claim our country back, because whether some like it or not, whether some deny it or not, whether the President of the United States himself acknowledges it or not, this is our country. This is our country as much as anybody else's. Each one of us here is as American as descendants of those who came on the Mayflower. It's funny because some of these folks, when I debate them, they tell me, we're not immigrants, my people were settlers. From where? The moon? Do not let anyone treat you or look at you differently. I think we were asleep at the wheel as this was happening. Donald Trump was leading the birther movement. Donald Trump was saying all this stuff we hear him say now. He was saying it already for years. And some of us were watching, his TV show. And some of us were, well, not me, because I always thought they were tacky, but some of us were buying his ties at Macy's. It wasn't until after he started running for president that people woke up and said, oh, you know what? This guy's discriminating against us. This guy's a bigot. What this guy is saying is wrong and offends us, and we're going to demand that NBC drop him, and we're going to demand that Macy's drop him. Where the hell were we for all those years while this was happening, and while he was leading a birther movement against the first black president of the United States? And so to me, the lesson learned from that is that when you see bigotry, when you see discrimination, when you see divisiveness, when you see the type of divide and conquer that he espouses, you nip it in the bud. You fight it from day one. You don't fight it when they become serious. You fight it from day one. You fight it when you see it from somebody you think is insignificant. You fight it when it's a celebrity. You fight it when it's somebody famous. You fight it when it's a politician. You have to fight bigotry, disunification. Look, every immigrant who comes to this country, whether 400 years ago or 4 days ago, knows what our president does not seem to know. America is a land of immigrants, including his own grandparents, and at least 2 of his 3 wives so far. Oh, and the parents of the wife, you know, who came here through chain migration, except that when it's about them, it's called family reunification. America is exceptional. America is already great. We've spent a lot of time, I've spent a lot of time, talking about immigrants and immigration. But you know who are not immigrants? Puerto Ricans aren't immigrants. You know what else they're not? They're not second-class citizens in this country, and they've been treated as such. Are there any Puerto Ricans here? Anybody from Puerto Rican descent? Okay, can I tell you, go out on the streets and get people to register to vote. You know? Here in Florida. It is, you know, I think it's so important. I hope to God the hundreds of thousands of Puerto Ricans who have left the island and moved to the mainland, or the millions of people of Puerto Rican descent who already live here, or those of us who love Puerto Ricans and want to see them treated fairly. I hope that, you know, Puerto Ricans do the most American of things come November. I hope they take those rolls of paper towel and help clean this mess up. For more than 6 months, so many of them are living without electricity and still being so. And I don't know if you guys read the articles, but you know, for months, so many of us said Puerto Rico's being treated differently. The reaction to Puerto Rico in comparison to what happened in Texas and Florida is different. Well, we weren't imagining things, guys. It was different. They took much longer. They sent much less resources. They treated Puerto Rico as second-class citizens, and that, to me and to every single one of us, should be offensive and unacceptable. It's not enough to say that, though. It's not enough to come here and listen to speeches. We must get up, we must get active, help the newly arrived Puerto Ricans to register to vote, and everybody else, people turning 18, help to register them to vote, particularly in purple states like Florida. We must lead, we must get loud, we must speak for those who are too afraid to speak. We must fight for the dreamers. We must denounce injustice everywhere we see it, and that includes standing up for the gay couple who's afraid they'll lose their rights, the Muslim woman who's afraid to wear her hijab in public, the Jewish mother who is afraid of the threats in her child's school. So before we move to question and answer, I want to end with a call to action. Inaction in the face of injustice is not an option. Fear is not an option. Indifference is not an option. Ignorance is not an option. Silence is not an option. We must rise up, Latinos. We must rise up. Levántense, exijan, gritan, pidan, votan para que los respete. We must fight back, and let's do it together. All right. Ya acabé con eso. ¿Vamos a hablar? What are we doing? You're doing it. Coño, y no me han dado ni café. Y estoy así de acelerada. Does anybody here not speak Spanish?
I think you're supposed to be in that.
I'm sorry.
I think I need to be in this one.
Oh, you need to be in this one.
For the mics, yeah. Well, I think we owe Ana one more round of applause for that amazing speech. I'm certainly moved. I almost leapt out of my seat and started protesting right here on the highway after that.
Yeah, you guys are all going to Disney World after this. Don't lie to me. You can protest tomorrow.
Right. So you touched on this a little bit about how, for those of us that were sort of driving blind, now is the time to act. And I just wanted to know, for you, someone who was probably doing just fine before this election, sort of what drives you and what has driven you to take the position that you've taken and to really be out there every single day fighting for our lives?
Part of it, frankly, look, really as I was growing up, I was very politically active because we fled Nicaragua. I fled Nicaragua with my family when I was 8 years old. There was a communist revolution. And that, teaches you early on in life. It shaped me. It taught me early on in life that politics matters, election matters, being engaged, being involved matters. As it comes to this election, really, I just saw so many instances. To me, it felt like if Donald Trump had decided to draft a list of how to personally piss me off and offend me, he would have done it. I remember being at the first Republican debate, and you guys remember when he went after Rosie O'Donnell? He cracked that joke at Rosie O'Donnell. My phone vibrated, and I looked down, and it was Rosie telling me, "I'm watching with my kids. What do I tell them?" And he went after John McCain. John McCain is my personal friend, my mentor, my hero. He mocked a disabled reporter. I have a severely autistic, severely disabled brother. I grew up watching kids stare at him and mimic some of his gestures. I had never seen an adult do that, much less one wanting to lead the free world. I mean, that to me is so offensive. That was my brother. And then one day, I remember during the Judge Curiel thing, I got into a car in a taxi or Uber in Washington, and the drivers in Washington, a lot of them keep CNN on the radio all the time, so a lot of times they recognize me by my voice before anything. And the guy said to me, he recognized me, and he said, I drive a cab 6 days, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, so that my 3 US-born children can be professionals. Are you telling me that in Donald Trump's America, because I was born in Ethiopia, my children's ability to do their job is going to be questioned? And he was telling me this, tearing up. And, I just realized how many people felt hurt, offended, outraged, scared by the things that were happening, and how much it mattered. It was like, for me, it was when I came out very strongly about the Access Hollywood tapes, people strangers, people I never knew were stopping me at airports and grocery stores, telling me their stories of having survived, having gone through sexual harassment and sexual assault and sexual abuse. And so, it was this realization that that I have a platform, and shame on me if I don't use it.
That's incredible. Excellent. So my second question is more around sort of the role that we take in the work that we do. So here at NALCAB, sorry, that's a nice gesture, Janie.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we are working with individuals to help them build assets, and we do that through helping folks buy homes and helping people start businesses.
Oh my God, don't even talk to me about assets right now. I just sent my taxes in yesterday.
Yes.
Estoy que quiero ir a protestar. I wanted to write a note. I don't want this shit to go for golf trips in Florida. I don't want this shit to go for $139,000 pair of doors. I don't want this to go for $31,000 for a lunch table for Ben Carson. I don't want Munchkin flying around on my dime. I literally wrote like a note of all the things, that I wanted. I don't want it to go build a wall.
Right. No, absolutely.
Unless it's around the White House, then I'm okay with it. But anyways, you actually had a question.
No, so I I was saying, so the work that we do in asset building is accompanied often by work in the realm of advocacy. And I think, I know for my organization and for many of you, I'm sure, we have begun to see ourselves more as advocates and taking on parallel issues like immigration, like DACA, and not solely advocating on behalf of the work that we do in the communities that we serve. And so from your vantage point, how can we best penetrate these politicians who, you know, implicitly or openly are not on our side?
You know, I really think we need to take a page out of these Stoneman Douglas kids. Mm-hmm. They are so savvy on social media, for example. You know, hashtags, Twitter, mm-hmm. Social media gives everybody, including the Russians, a platform to influence American politics. You know, it used to be that you'd write in op-eds to you know, a letter to the newspaper, and maybe they choose one out of 500. Well, now everybody has, you know, has a platform and access to that. Look, call them, demand town halls, show up at their offices, protest them, vote, register people to vote, and you will, you know, you will get action. We need to mobilize. We just need to mobilize. You know, we cannot be what we've been for so long, the Latino community, sleeping giant, and then having less than average voter participation, and it's more than voter participation. That's really the most important thing. But it's being loud, it's being active, it's engaging, it's donating money to those you support and against those you don't support. It's knowing what you stand for, knowing your voice, you know, knowing your principles and your convictions. And, you know, I always remember this Spanish saying, el que mucho abarca, poco aprieta. I don't know how you say that in English, but anyways, I really don't know how you say that in English. But, ¿cómo es?
That's a hard one, you're right.
Oh, okay. I thought you had the translation. Somebody's got to have Google translation going on. But, you know, so pick your battles. But I was thinking as I was flying in here yesterday, 49 people got shot at a gay Latin club in Orlando, you know, a year and a half ago. By the way, one of them was my cousin, Jerry Wright. And not a damn thing happened as a result. Was it because they were gay? Was it because most of them were Latinos? Was it because they were gay Latinos? But when you see the reaction to what happened with Stoneman Douglas and what those kids were able to do, they were able to get gun legislation passed in Florida. Is it perfect? No. But this is a state where nothing had happened in decades, where every single proposal on gun rights and gun restrictions had been stopped by the NRA. And these kids, with their can-do attitude and speaking truth to power and being fearless and mobilizing, you know, and getting the sympathy of the entire country, were able to do it. And so, you know, I say to myself too, you know, where were we after Pulse? Where was the Latino community? Those were, you know, most of those people were our people getting killed. And I just think, damn it, we've been too silent lately. Hay que hacer ruido.
Definitely. And I did a mental translation. I think it's the less people you get on board, the less you
press. That's a terrible translation.
I'm trying. Anyhow, so I've been told we have 2 minutes.
He's got it.
Yeah.
English virgin, jack of all trades, master of none.
Okay, that's better. Your translation was awful.
Okay, so I've been told we have about 1 or 2 minutes left before we open it up to the rest of the audience. So I don't know that you can answer this question in that timeline, but if you had a crystal ball and given, again, your vantage point, how does this play out? Are we looking at Trump 2020? Is the blue wave really coming? What do you foresee?
I think the blue wave is coming in, first of all, it's very hard to foresee anything because there's so much you know, if there's anything predictable about Trump is how unpredictable he is. And, you know, how inconsistent and crazy he can be. You shouldn't ask me for any predictions because everything I thought about 2016 turned out to be wrong. So really, I almost want to say we're going to have Trump for another 200 years in hopes that he lasts 200 hours. I do think that the Democrats are going to win at least one, if not both, chambers of Congress. I think, look, I think a lot depends on things like what does Trump do vis-a-vis Mueller in the next, 4 months, 5 months before the elections. If Trump goes after Rosenstein, if he goes after Mueller, if he fires Mueller, make no mistake about it, people will flood the streets of America and people will flood the ballot box. And Republicans will feel it because I think Americans, including me, and I'm a Republican, are very frustrated at the hypocrisy of Republicans who investigated Democrat administrations nearly to death. Do you think for 1 minute that if Barack Obama had been accused of paying hush money a few weeks before the election to keep an affair silent? Well, first of all, he would have been dead because Michelle would have killed him. But you think he would not have been investigated by Congress for possible campaign finance violations? Of course he would have been. And yet, time and time again, the Republicans have forgotten that Congress is an independent branch, not subservient to this president, and they look the other way and they don't hold him accountable. And I think that is why they're going to pay a big price at the polls, because people want some checks and balances. That's part of what makes America great, that check and balance system and the integrity of our elections. And both have been under attack. What was the question?
You answered it. It was just around sort of what does the future hold. So we got there. So at this point, I think we're opening it up. There are mics in the audience going around.
Thank you so much for coming out to NALCAB. I think it really means a lot to everyone here. I would venture to say that most people here are Democrats. Don't have to answer. It's cool. But one of my best friends...
You mean people who advocate for needy folks to have assets and build wealth.
But one of my best friends and her husband, they're Republicans, and they're never Trumpers, and they are very active and organizing. They don't know what to do. They're debating it every day amongst the two of them. Do I become independent? Do I become Democrat? Do I try to stay and rebuild the Republican Party? I think you used to be, or maybe still are, very involved in that. What do you think is the future? Because if the Republican Party really devolves into more of this Tea Party, alt-right, Trump-led thing, that could be really dangerous for our two-party system. What do you see as the future for a sane Republican Party, perhaps?
Look, like I said and I really don't debate that because I'm so stubborn and I'm a denial, masochism, call it whatever you want. But I'm gonna be the last chick left on Survivor Island, hanging on. Me and Lindsey Graham are gonna be hanging on to that palm tree for our lives. But it's a very legitimate debate, I think, for a Republican like me who feels the way I do right now. Here's how I feel about it. I really believe in the need for a healthy two-party system offering solutions and addressing problems. I don't want to be taken for granted by one party and openly antagonized by the other. And so, I want two parties to be courting me, to be wanting my vote, to be earning my vote and my support. I think right now the Republican Party is, I think right now the Republican Party is defined by Trump. And what Trump offers Latinos, what Trump offers women, what Trump offers LGBT. What Trump offers anybody who ain't old, white, and rich is really, very little. There's a different class. So, the question is, do I pick up my toys and, go home, or do I stay to fight? I'd rather fight, and there's people who've done different things, right? People who I respect tremendously, people like George Will. I mean, I have a lot of friends who have left the Republican Party and have become independent. I have some friends who've, just taken up knitting and words with friends because they can't bear the reality. And then I have a lot of friends who have decided to stay and fight. Look, if we all leave, who's left to fight? Mm-hmm. And I'd rather do it from inside the tent than from outside the tent. The other thing is, oh my God, does it irritate them? Does it irritate them that there are never Trump Republicans? I mean, I think I get more attacks from Trump Republicans than what they attack Democrats. And that's fine with me.
So Ana, thank you for being here. I have a question. I've been following your career, and you're very educated, you're very engaged. How did you cultivate your voice?
It wasn't, to tell you the truth, this election cycle for me was like an aha moment and a wake-up moment. Because when you are in politics, when you're a political hack, you often know the people who are running, the people who are running their campaigns, they're your friends, you've known them for years and decades. And every morning you wake up to an inbox full of media talking points and guidances, and you have surrogate calls every day, sometimes more than one a day, telling you what to say and what to think and how to defend this point and how to fight against, that point. That's why when you tune TV on, like everybody sounds the same and everybody's saying the same because everybody's reading off the same media talking points. But, this year for the first time, this election in 2016 for the first time, I wasn't supporting anybody. I wasn't, I supported everybody before, Trump became nominee. I supported Jeb, I supported Christie, I supported Marco, I would have supported a potted plant over over Trump. Actually, I did. I supported Jeb. But for the first time, I was not aligned with any campaign or any not the RNC, not the DNC, and so it was all me. I had to process what was happening. I had to think about it. I had to speak about it and come up with my own reactions. And it really, I was free to use my voice and nobody's voice but my own. I didn't have to worry about, making Jeb's campaign manager mad if I didn't stick to their script. It was all me. And God, is it fun. It is so liberating to be able to say exactly what you want when you want. And I will say, CNN and the other outlets I'm on, ABC and Telemundo, I've never gotten one editorial comment from anybody at any of those outlets. So what you see is what you get. And I think people are so sick of programmed robotic talking heads all parroting the same thing, that it's, I think they realize that, some days I'm on, some days I'm off, some days I stutter, some days I screw it up, but you know what? It's me. It's the authenticity of me. Like me, hate me, whatever.
That's excellent. Who has the mic?
Hi. So my question is, as you've mentioned earlier, Latinos fall a little short in staying engaged in political arenas. So how do you, I think we're in times where there's always something new in the news. So looking back, and maybe it wasn't as controversial as with this administration, like, how do you sort of not only stay presently engaged, but like, how do you continue to like preserve yourself as well? Because you're in this platform, and politics can be a little heavy. So I guess it's kind of two questions, right? How can Latinos not only enter but stay engaged, but then also how do you do that yourself?
Again, well, first, how do Latinos get engaged and enter and get engaged? First, I think it's about building alliances. And so, we should have been together with the LGBTQ community protesting about Pulse. We should show up at the airports when a Muslim ban is getting instituted. We should stand up for, the Jewish community who is undergoing a spike in anti-Semitism and crimes against that community. It's, their battle is our battle, so that then our battles can be their battles. We need to do more, I think, to forge a working relationship and a real unity with the African American community. I have seen more of that. But let me tell you, the likelihood that somebody who discriminates or is racist against an African American is not racist against a Latino is slim to none. It's just a matter of, of who. Look, so I think we need to build alliances. I think we need to be very aware. I think our leaders need to be more active, more vocal, less afraid to rock the boat, less subject to corporate, manipulation. That's about the community. About me, I have like separation anxiety right now from news. Like I came downstairs, I hadn't read the news, and I'm like, oh my God, has anything happened? Because honest to goodness, you could go in the shower, you come back, he's fired 3 people and started war. So, look, I know the things that are really important to me, right? So, I'm not going to be out there saving the whales. I mean, I love whales, and I think they need to be saved, or hugging the trees. I love trees, and I think they need to be saved too. But, dreamers are are in my heart. But for the fact that I had parents who had resources, I could have been a Dream Act kid too. I came here when I was 8 years old, and I know what that's like. I used to think that the gun issue was not my issue, and then we've had 3 major mass shootings in Florida in the last 18 months. The last one, 25, 30 minutes from my house. It is my damn issue. It is all of our issues. And so, I also think it's important to resist the urge to normalize what's not normal. It's almost like, I often get asked, why do you guys react to the stupid stuff that, Trump says on Twitter? Because he's the president of the United States. Because he's the president of the United States. And so, the things that we cannot get numb to the things that are happening. We have got to maintain the level of energy and translate it to the voting booth. So, I really tell myself, I'm not gonna get numb to this. I'm not gonna get numb to this. I'm not gonna normalize this. I'm not gonna shrug my shoulders. I'm not gonna think, that not coming out strongly against Rob Porter after we've seen pictures of his ex-wife's black eye is normal, because, son las cosas de Trump, así es Trump, acostúmbrate. No me voy a acostumbrar. I think this is an assault on the presidency of the United States and everything it stands for. I am not going to lower the bar for what I think presidential behavior is because he happens to be Republican. I am not going to normalize lying and cheating and fabricating and ad hominem attacks because he is Republican. You know, so to me to me it's like this moment where you have to wake up every day and realize it's country over party, and we can't look the other way.
Ana, gracias por tus palabras y motivación. Raúl Raimundo de Chicago. Economic power is political power. Political power is economic power. It's great to see a lot of women today running for office as a result of what's going on in D.C. But where is that economic power so that Latinos can run in massive, on all levels of government across this country? And you need that economic power. Look at what dark money says about what money has done to democracy in this country. And you need money to be able to counteract that in a more positive way. In your opinion, where is the Latino economic power that can lead to political power?
Look, I think, I think you gotta go out and search for it. If you wanna run, you've got to go out and search for it yourself, really. It's not going to be served to you on a silver platter. And I would tell you it's harder for us than it is for others. But I will also tell you that if you are a viable candidate for office, the campaign committees, if you are a good candidate, the campaign committees will give you money and will support you, and people will support you. But we've seen this year Latinos, women, gays, Muslims. We've seen people get elected in state and local races and special elections that are groundbreaking, that are breaking the ceiling. So I think that should motivate folks to go out. It's just look, politics it's easier if you're rich. Certainly, if Donald Trump had not had a penny to his name, he would not have been able to do this. That was part of what kept him afloat at the beginning when everybody thought he was a joke. But money, as we've seen in these last elections and in these special elections that have been happening, money is not all of it. But I do think that there's money out there. It just has to, you've got to go and prove your case.
This is going to be the last question.
Well, there's two, so let's do two. Okay. We'll do them quick.
Hi, Ana. My name is Darlene, and I'm a fellow Nicoya. So,
where are you from?
Esteli.
Ah, okay. That's where they make cigars.
That's right. So, I'm really wondering about the political landscape as you predict 2020, and what's our best hope for the political landscape? What do you think is going to happen? And would you be running?
First of all, I was born in Nicaragua, so what the hell am I going to run? Look.
Ted Cruz could do it.
No. The political landscape in 2020, I guess you're talking, look, I think Donald Trump would win the Republican nomination if he ran again? Yes, in a heartbeat. Do I think a Democrat could beat him? Yes, but it's got to be the right Democrat. I don't think it's going to be easy. And right now, I almost see on the Democratic side what happened on the Republican side in 2016, where there were like 16 people running and you could hardly tell them apart. Right now, when I look at this potential field of Democrats, it's almost the same, where there's going to be all this fractioning off. And then I think Democrats need to find somebody. I know it's not all about me, but I think they need to find somebody that appeals to people like me. And so when you put, I know I'm still a Republican, because when I hear Elizabeth Warren, or Nancy Pelosi, I want to run for the doors. And so, there needs to be a Democrat, in the same way that Ronald Reagan appealed to, Reagan Democrats. There needs to be a Democrat that can appeal to independents and disenfranchised Republicans, right-leaning independents. Look, I know he is old as hell. I know he's fossilized, but I think Joe Biden, to me, Joe Biden is the anti-Trump. a guy who's, you know, who's not become rich out of politics, was one of the poorest guys serving, who served since, you know, very early on, who is nothing but emotion and authenticity, who has gone through so much personal tragedy and survived it, and is not afraid to show his heart and compassion. And, you know, some of my Democratic friends tell me he's establishment Democratic, and, you know, and he's too old. Folks, he'd be running against Donald Trump. You know, he's, you know, give them both the presidential exam and see who's alive at the end. My money's on Joe. The last one.
The last one.
Thank you, Ana, for taking my question. And I also want to thank you for speaking truth to power. My Costa Rican translation of that is, gracias por hablar sin pelos en la lengua. My quick question to you is, what will be you are such an effective communicator. What is the elevator speech you will give to, you know, sitting in an airplane to a Trump Republican who believe in conspiracy theories, fake news, or that as an immigrant it's really hard to make the whole case that, you know, this guy is a white supremacist and that it's really a threat to the whole world. But there is always, I'm just curious to know what would you tell somebody who believe on this stuff? And there's many of folks. I'm from North Carolina, and every day I'm surprised to find out the amount of people that really support Trump and believe that.
Well, look, if I was on a plane, I'd put my headphones on. If I was on an elevator, I'd pray to God it wouldn't get stuck. There's also a saying in Spanish, no hay peor ciego que el que no quiere ver. There is no worse blind person than he or she who does not want to see. Algo por el estilo. You know, there's certain things that have to come not from external, but from internal. That where you look at yourself in the mirror, when you know, make the realization. You know, where, I mean, I have some evangelical friends who supported Trump, and now realize that, look, you know, moral values, moral compass, not lying, not cheating, not, you know, are issues that matter to them, and they have stopped supporting him. But I think it's got to come from within you. I can tell you that nothing I tell them, nothing you tell them, is going to make a difference. I think it's really hard, because, you know, if you believe in conspiracy theories, look, if you are the kind of person who believes that Bill and Hillary Clinton were running a sex ring out of the basement of a pizza shop that does not have a basement, I can't help you, man. You know what I mean? I mean, I can't help you. There's nothing I can say. If you want to believe, you will believe. And so, unless, you know, it's the, you know what will make the change? I'll tell you what will make the change. When China imposes tariffs, and all of a sudden the farmers in Iowa are feeling it. When, you know, the aluminum tariffs and the construction industry begins to feel it. I'm in the middle of you know, putting up changing windows in my house for hurricane windows, because last year I got scared. You know, the price of hurricane windows has gone up 20%. You know what that means? That means that a lot of people can't afford to do it. That's going to hurt the construction industry. Rebar has gone up enormously because of all this talk of aluminum tariffs. That's when people are going to come to the realization. When, you know, right now, you know, everybody's happy about the tax bill. Let's see what happens in 10 years with that tax bill. Let's see what happens as a result of those aluminum tariffs. Let's see what happens when the market goes crazy and pension funds start getting affected. Let's see what happens when you start seeing, when America starts seeing Dream Act kids torn from their communities, kids who've grown up going to school with and playing in the baseball team with their own children, and who work in their offices or work in their places of employment, who are who are part of their community and attend their church. Let's see what happens when that happens. So I don't think anything you say or I say will change somebody's mind if that's what they want to believe. So you know what? Watch the movies on American Airlines. Watch Coco. It's like, out of all the, I fly a lot, and I've been watching all the Oscar movies. Coño, que gente más rara. These movies this year are like, it's like the deaf girl with the fish. I mean, it's like, the entire thing is crazy to me. So watch Coco over and over again. It'll make you feel better.
Great. Well, I really want to thank you, Ana, for coming and speaking with us. It's been lots of fun.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
And